we're about to leave. I'm like getting a call from like Louisiana. I'm like, I don't know anybody in Louisiana. Answer the phone. I'm like, hello. It's like, hey Drew, it's Archie. I'm like, Archie Manning. I was like, oh hey, like what's up? How's it going? He was like, hey, just he invited me down to the camp, but I was just like, I walked out like, guys, Archie Manning just called me.
Good morning, evening, afternoon. Welcome back to the Underqualified Knuckleheads podcast for the first time in a hot minute. I am your co-host, Daniel Keene. Alongside me, as always, but through a screen now, is Mr. Andy Newman. How are we doing?
Yeah, obviously, we are not at Ball State, and that's why the sound quality sounds so much worse. Dan was so close on getting the intro right this time. At least he said his name. Forgot to say whatever time it is by you. So whatever time it is by you, I'm glad you're listening. Dan, you always mess it up, but it's fine. We'll get it there at some point. It's summer. We haven't gotten back into the swing of things. We're all good.
It's a staple of the podcast at this point that I will mess something up. But audio quality aside, we're talking, we're seeing each other. Andy has grown more than a co-host, just a really good friend of mine at this point, and it's great to see you. And we have a special guest coming up. Guest that Colts fans might have heard of. Ball State fans have definitely heard of. Definitely. What we got today, Andy?
We have our former starting quarterback for the past 4 years, right, Dan?
About 4 years, I remember.
About 4. Drew Plitt, currently trying to get his way into the NFL. And if we, from information at least last that I heard of, he had an opportunity to go to a mini camp, a joint practice mini camp with the Indianapolis Colts. Obviously, huge fan of it. You can see that on the images there. My cool Marvin Harrison signed jersey back there. Thank you, Dad. And the Chicago Bears. So if you're a fan of the Chicago Bears living up there in Illinois, Chicago area, then you may have or may hear of him soon. So
yes, Drew Plitt is pretty synonymous with Ball State football, bringing home their first MAC title and their second consecutive bowl game appearance.
Yep.
No.
I don't know. I would say so.
No. Okay, sorry. Let me rephrase that. It was the first MAC championship since like the 90s or something. And then this season, he took them to their second consecutive bowl game where they played Georgia State in the Camellia Bowl. But if you remember last year,
and you got the opportunity to go.
I watched Drew Plitt's final collegiate game, which is now near and dear to my heart as a Ball State student. Either way, Drew Plitt knows football. He's a Loveland, Ohio native, so near to Cincinnati. We might have some Cincinnati conversations come up about their football team, maybe Skyline Chili, stuff like that. But it is sure to be an action-packed episode.
Oh, yeah. And also, just to remember, this might be a little bit more context for those who don't understand the MAC and everything in bowl games. Ball State did finish under Drew in 2020 in the top 23 in the AP poll at the end of the year. So that's for a MAC school and for Ball State itself, that is honestly something that is very, very cool because that is not very, very rare for a Ball State or MAC school to be up that high. So it's very neat to see.
Either way, that's enough of me and Andy. We're going to segue into the interview right now with Drew Plitt.
Woohoo!
To the Underqualified Knuckleheads podcast. I'm your co-host, Daniel Keene. Alongside me is Mr. Andy Newman, and joined today with us is our special guest, Mr. Drew Plitt. How are you doing today, Drew?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, man. I'm really excited about this, so I really appreciate it.
Yeah, Drew is the former starting quarterback at Ball State University, where Andy and I both go. And he's a tremendous football player. Lovely guy. First and foremost, Drew, what have you been up to since graduating Ball State?
Yeah, so I went down to Florida and I trained, did the whole draft prep and all that. Went through the draft process and ended up getting a shot doing mini camp with the Bears and the Bengals. Both went really well. Uh, kind of got my feet wet with being in the NFL and seeing what it takes, learning an offense, which by the way is a lot of stuff to learn. Trying to basically staying up till like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, just trying to memorize what the play is, what's going on, stuff like that. Calling my girlfriend, telling her to read me the play so I can read it back to her just to get used to hearing it and then saying it. Really interesting, but it was good. Everything went well. Didn't end up getting signed. So I've been working out, had a Falcons tryout, went well as well. Just, not the right time or place. It's kind of the nature of the business. So now just doing a little bit of side stuff for my dad and working out. And I'm actually heading down this weekend to the XFL showcase in Dallas.
Awesome. Yes, that is
Yeah.
exactly what I wanted to hear. I was
Yeah.
literally going to ask that question. So obviously, yeah, the NFL is definitely the pinnacle of where you want to
Right.
be. But for some people, it is you got to take those whatever opportunity that you have. So you're interested in getting into the XFL or even the USFL, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I've been talking to both the USFL and the XFL. So I'm really excited. I just, for me, I just want to play any chance I get. Going from college and you don't really get paid to play. So like any kind of little money is going to help me keep going. Really, that's the biggest thing is just paying for housing for me is all I care about.
Yeah, and then you kind of missed out on the NIL at the tail end of your career there.
Yeah. Just didn't get to, fully take advantage of all of that.
So comparative from doing NFL tryouts to the XFL and USFL, do you see a whole lot of difference, or is it all professional football? Is it all kind of run the same way?
Um, I think just seeing what I did in the mini camps, the difference in the guys that are playing versus not playing, it's very slim. Um, on except for kind of those superstars, the guys that you know, the big names are obviously guys who are head and shoulders above everybody else in their abilities. But when it comes to who's getting signed, who's not, there's really not much difference. Sometimes it's just whether a coach likes you or likes the way you throw, likes the way you run, whatever. If coach doesn't like the way you run, it may be that reason that you're not getting signed. So I think it's professional football, and I think watching the USFL this year, people see that it's just it's not as big as the NFL. It's not been around as long, but it's still professional football.
Did you have
And
a
yeah,
favorite?
and you
Oh, sorry, go Andy.
yeah, and you do in the USFL and XFL, like with all like the deals that I've been seeing with Fox and with NBC and with ESPN and ABC, you're getting national coverage, and I
Yeah,
mean people are looking at you at least. So, and
exactly.
it's
Yeah, I
definitely
mean,
it's more time for you to
yeah, I
get
mean, it's
placed.
more time, basically more film to at the professional level where you're taking guys that maybe probably were playing in college but should be playing at professional level. You're taking them out and you're playing against them in the USFL, and it's guys that have been on practice squads, guys that have played games in the NFL that maybe at the tail end of their career now are still playing, or vice versa. Maybe got a shot early, something happened, an injury here or there, and they're still playing, but they're now in the USFL trying to make a comeback. Everybody's getting exposure though, which is the great part.
Yeah, are you connected with any of these Ball State guys who are doing the same process as you? Um, Guys like Justin Hall or anybody from your graduating class who's now making their way in the professional world?
I kept up with them a little bit. I know they probably reported yesterday. Today's Thursday, yeah. So yesterday was kind of report day for rookies. My buddy Nolan, who was my roommate there at Ball State for a while, we talk basically every day. But I know they're starting to get into camp and everything now. So I haven't talked to them in a couple weeks, but I'm sure I'll reach out here soon and keep up to date with them. This is kind of the time period where you go into camp and you just don't even look at your phone for guys that are playing. So it is what it is, and I'm excited for them and glad they got their shot, and I know they're going to take full advantage of it.
Yeah, going back to Loveland, Ohio, where football began for you. Do you remember when you started playing football, and when did you start to fall in love with it?
I think I fell in love with it immediately. I think people kind of ask, why I love the game, and I have a weird answer. It's because I actually enjoy getting hit, and I think a lot of the guys that are in football or play professional football, like you kind of have to enjoy like that feeling of getting hit to be able to play this long. Obviously I love the camaraderie of being in the locker room. That's, goes along with it. But, what I crave is getting hit. When I haven't gone a year without football, like I'm like, I want somebody to tackle me or something, but, that kind of drew me in was being able to go out and get hit and, hit somebody else, and just not being in trouble for doing that was kind of, I think, what drew me to football. And obviously I have a passion for just athletics in general. Originally, when I was in high school, I wanted to play college basketball, but most guys who play college basketball are above 6'5", unless they're point guards, and I didn't have the ball handles for that. So I was just, football was my thing, and I haven't looked back, and I enjoy every second of it.
And obviously, the hitting aspect of it is definitely very different. That's kind of what derailed my career after 8th grade, because I didn't want to do that at all. But that's besides the point. So as a quarterback, though, how, I know you said that you're allowed to hit people, but as a quarterback, I mean, obviously that's kind of frowned upon. How did that kind of work in with you playing quarterback of all
Yeah,
positions?
I mean, I didn't even start playing quarterback till I was in high school. So I mean, I played defenses, a linebacker and safety growing up. Youth football, middle school. And then offensively, I played wide receiver, tight end, running back, basically growing up until my freshman year. I realized I wasn't fast enough to play any other position other than quarterback. Things just fall that way. And luckily enough, I had the physical ability to do it. So I took it what it's worth. And, if there was any other position I'd play, I'd definitely play probably wide receiver too.
Gotcha.
So looking into your time at Ball State, I thought it was very interesting that your time at Ball State closely coincided with head coach Mike New's time. I don't know if he was a year before you or the same year that you came in, but you guys spent your whole college career with Ball State was with Coach Mike New. How did that relationship kind of grow stronger, knowing that you guys were kind of on the same level of being in college football?
Yeah, I mean, he was actually, so he got the job right before I signed in February. So he got it in January. He came on a little visit. They did recruiting's way different now. They did at-home visits in January then. So he came and did the at-home visit. So I kept my scholarship. Obviously sometimes it doesn't happen that way. So I signed, I stayed, and basically just from there our relationship grew. A little bit, started off a little rough, just being a freshman, being hard-headed and wanting to do my things my way was what I had to learn. So, but it definitely, I mean, it grew into a great relationship as I would go up there, watch film all the time, and we talk and have an open conversation about basically anything. And he was a great coach and great mentor for me, and helped me get to the point that I'm at now.
And then I know you enjoyed a lot of success, at least especially with the 2020 season, being ranked in the top 25 at the end of the year in the AP poll. Could you talk me through just kind of the experience of that year and kind of just how awesome it was winning a bowl game as well? Just talk me through that.
Yeah. I mean, that year was one of its own. I mean, going from COVID, so we were out. They didn't have spring ball, sent us home. And then through that, it was, obviously everybody was questioning, what are we going to do moving forward? Is there going to be football? Is there going to be anything? But like for us, it was just like we started, like we went into summer, we did all of the summer. Like we came back a little bit later than normal, but we did summer, lifted outside, which was way different. We were in like one of those old party tents that people do think like large events in. We were outside on just like little rubber mats. It was crazy, but it was humid, so it was hot. But I think for us, I mean, that was kind of a bonding experience for like all the players on the team, because there would be 30 of us in there. And we had to do all of our lifts just like on our own and change all our own weights because we couldn't touch the weights. So you had to wipe them down after. It was crazy.
That's so weird.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it didn't make sense, but it is what it is. We're past it now. But then we started camp, and then 2 days into camp, I think they canceled the season. And like for me, it was like that was really my senior year. That was a lot of our senior year. We were like, we're done with football. What's the next step? Like, I know some guys were just, started, some guys just called it. They were like, we're done. This is my senior year. That's it. And then they, I think a month later they were like, all right, actually we're going to play the season. We're not going to come back till October, but that's when we're going to play the season and do a shortened season, just because we saw the SEC and I think it was the Big Ten was playing and it was working. So that's what we did. And for us, I think as a more experienced team, that's what helped us get to the point we were at. We lost that first game, which was a heartbreaker. I think about it all the time. But we had a conversation. It was like, we're not gonna let this year be the one that just breaks us down, and this is how we go out, because we didn't know if we were getting that extra year or not at that point. So we just turned it around and had a lot of fun to the whole thing, and enjoyed every moment that we could.
Yeah, and then learning that you guys were going to get that extra year after all of the emotions that you felt during that 2020 season. Was it kind of a group decision? Did you consult any of your teammates or your coaches, or was the second that opportunity was available, you wanted to take it?
No, it was definitely a big decision. It was one that I had to think a lot about. Just whether I was going to go the next level that year or this year was kind of the biggest decision. I was going to play football that next year, or try to, no matter what. It was just what level I was going to do it at. And I talked to my coaches, talked to my family. I even talked to some teammates. And I remember like Justin Hall sitting there. He was like, "Hey, if you're going to stay, I'm going to stay." I was like, "All right, I guess I'm going to stay." And I was kind of leaning towards staying at that point when he said that. I was like, "All right, we're staying." And I think just kind of everything fell in a row after that. Everybody was riding a high and wanted to do it again and keep going. So it was a tough year last year, but it is what it is, and we enjoyed all the time together as teammates. So I wouldn't change it.
All right, and then just from Ball State football in general, what's like a favorite story or memory that you have that kind of just sticks in your brain?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the MAC championship was one of the coolest moments that I had at Ball State, being there. But another one was just the Western Michigan overtime win. I don't know if you guys remember it, but we were not a great team that year. We were struggling. I was a backup. I'd come in, I think the game before in Toledo, and we got whooped. It was bad. I mean, I played terrible. It is what it is. But we went into Western Michigan, and they needed to beat us to go to the MAC championship. And I think it just kind of solidified, what the future held for us as a team when we beat them in overtime. And from that point on, I think we didn't look back. We got better that next year, really losing, I think it was like 5 games or something by a total of 8 points. And then winning the 2020 MAC championship. So I think that was kind of a turning point in my career there. Just, going from a backup or a role player to being a full-time starter and having fun with it.
So talking about your time at Ball State, was there a win that was your favorite? Was there one win that just kind of encapsulated everything you felt during your time there?
Like, I think it was that Western Michigan. Like I said, it was just like a turning point. Is one that like flipped the script, and then like kind of the one that like completed that was the MAC championship in the bowl game. I mean, the bowl game was a fun time, and we went out there and enjoyed ourselves and had some fun. So that was a heck of a time and just one heck of a year. So I think like being able to cap off, that 2020 season with that win too was just, I mean, that's like a picture perfect ending to me. Like if you were to draw it up any other way, it probably wouldn't have turned out the way it did.
All right, and then this is a question that I was unaware of that Dan brought up to me. As you can maybe kind of see with the Marvin Harrison jersey and the Colts jersey and the Colts hat here, I'm a pretty big Colts fan. So, and I think my favorite player of all time happens to be Peyton Manning. So, and I heard that you went to the Manning Passing Academy. Could you talk me through that, getting to meet Peyton and then Archie or Eli and everything? Talk me through that because I want to hear about it really bad.
Yeah, I mean, the coolest part about it was like we're sitting there, we're getting ready to go to Burgers on Tuesday night at Brothers, and we're like hanging out. It's like me, Caleb Slavin, and somebody else. We're about to leave. I'm like getting a call from like Louisiana. I'm like, I don't know anybody in Louisiana. Answer the phone. I'm like, hello. It's like, hey Drew, it's Archie. I'm like, Archie Manning. I was like, oh, hey, like, what's up? How's it going? He was like, hey, just, he invited me down to the camp, but I was just like, I walked out, I was like, guys, Archie Manning just called me. Like, to me, I'm like the same way. Like, I was like, yo, that's wild. And then right after that, like he texted me after some games and was like, hey, good win or good season, whatever. I was just like, this is crazy that Archie, like, I have Archie's number, all this, but like, that was cool. Like, super fanboy of me to do that, but it is what it is. But then, yeah, I mean, went down there, met a bunch of guys that are, in the league now, or, going to be next year, that I still talk to a couple of them. So it was a great experience. Got to meet Peyton, Eli, Cooper, funniest guy, around, always cracking jokes, always whatever. Even got to sit there with Peyton, have a beer, and just talk to him and just listen to his stories, and telling stories about Tiger Woods and playing in a pro-am with him. Just like, this is a cool, like, people would pay to be here, and like, they're paying for me to come and do this. And we obviously got to be counselors and help other kids, so that was cool too. But getting to learn from them, hear their stories too, was just an unbelievable experience, and something I wish like everybody got to experience, because it's just like, there's such a great group of guys, and interesting too, that has so many stories.
That's nuts. Yeah, obviously I'm an insane Peyton Manning fan, so that's super cool to hear.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Cooper, Peyton, Eli, Archie, everybody, that's super neat. But then, so obviously you talked about there were some other quarterbacks that were there with you. Do you have a relationship with from there?
Yeah, I mean, actually, he's now like the one guy I talked to probably the most is Taylor Powell, who's up at Eastern Michigan now. Played at Troy last year and Mizzou there. But I mean, I've kept up a relationship. I talked to Malik right before the draft, Desmond Ritter. So all those guys were down there, and that's kind of the cool part too, is you get to meet guys that and see them in person that you otherwise probably wouldn't, and get to build a relationship with. So it was pretty awesome.
That's super cool.
Speaking of Peyton Manning playing at Tennessee, Ball State's playing at Tennessee to start the season. Are you a little jealous that you're missing out on that game, or have you already had enough big games?
I mean, I had the big games. I wish I would have won one. We were close on a couple. I'm hoping to get down there for it. I think 6 years in college is probably enough. There's probably some stadiums though that I wish I would have played in, but I'll take the 6 years and be happy with it. That's for sure. But I'm hoping to get down there if I'm free that week, and get to go watch that game.
Speaking of stadiums, also before I came to Ball State, let's just preface that I was still kind of am massive Notre Dame football fan.
Okay.
So obviously you played. I don't know, you didn't necessarily play yourself.
Yeah, I was on the sidelines.
But talk to me about at least the experience of getting to like be on the field or on the sidelines and stuff going into Notre Dame. But just talk to me about that.
I grew up like a Notre Dame fan. That was kind of the team we used to watch. Then once I got into high school, it kind of, it was just, I was getting recruited. So I was like, whoever's recruiting me, that's who I want to be a fan of. Right? Like, that's how it went. But just being on the field, I think the history that Notre Dame's field has was just kind of one of the coolest parts. One of the nicest visitors locker rooms I've ever seen. I mean, it was like it's nicer in our locker room at Ball State, just not as spacious. I mean, like nice finished wood on the walls, and I'm just like, this is unreal. But it was cool. I mean, just having the experience of being able to be in there and see all those, historic things that they have, the Golden Dome. So, and almost winning. I mean, I know I wasn't playing, but being that close in the fourth quarter was pretty cool. So, another great, experience and stadium, kind of one of the better ones I thought, was NC State. Their stadium was like, I feel like it was just more on, like right on top of you. So it was super loud. I mean, there wasn't near, I think there was like 55, maybe 60,000 fans there. But I mean, you couldn't, first third down, I couldn't hear a thing. I mean, you couldn't hear yourself think. Like the person standing next to me, if I told them something, they would, like, if I screamed at them, they probably wouldn't hear me. And that one I did not expect, but that was a really nice stadium and awesome crowd.
I would not expect NC State to be like that.
That's what I thought. I was like, NC State wouldn't be the one to be as loud as it is, but it was. So
But yeah, and I do 100% remember that 2018 game because again, this is way before I even thought about going to Ball State. I was infuriated by how
Oh
close
yeah,
the game was.
I'm sure every Notre Dame fan was.
I was so mad. But I mean, now obviously, if we were ever to be able to play them again, I want to beat them by 80. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah.
So we know your sister Marie is entering her senior season at Ball State with the women's volleyball team. I went to high school with my sister, and we were in the same age bracket. But can you explain to me how important that sibling relationship and that sibling bond was while you both were playing athletics at Ball State?
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was something for me. I didn't want to, impose on anything that she was doing, and she didn't want to impose on anything that I was doing. But I think for me, it was like just helping her get acclimated to college was what I wanted to do. Basically, what we would do is we'd get, lunch or coffee or whatever, something small, see each other at least once a week. And for me, like that grew our relationship when we were growing up. Me and my brother shared a room. So it was like me and him were really close, and me and my sister always fought. And now we're at the point where like we're super close, and it's a great relationship we have. And I think it's just brought us closer. And we kind of have now a little rivalry on who's going to get more rings. So I got a state championship and one championship at Ball State. She's got two now at Ball State. So, I told her either I'm going to have to get a Super Bowl or something else, and if she's going to get one this year. So we'll see what happens, but that's kind of our little, rivalry that we have. And I think just for us, it makes us better and wants us to compete more, because that's kind of how we do. We go home and all we do is play, games, whether it's pool volleyball, cornhole, putting practice, just seeing who can beat. Basically, whoever wins gets the bragging rights, and that's what we do basically every time we get together. So it just brought our relationship, closer.
Yeah,
And then you said, "Ooh, sorry." Gonna go ahead, Dan.
when Marie was still in high school, how soon did you learn that Ball State was starting to recruit her, and were you allowed to talk to her about Ball State, or was there any lines you couldn't cross in terms of recruiting to Ball State?
There was no lines. I mean, volleyball recruiting is a lot different, where it's a lot earlier. Like I think it was her sophomore year of high school that she committed. Like
Wow.
whereas football is like senior year, either spring or fall of senior year. I didn't want her to go there just because of me. I think I'm a big reason she did go, but I didn't want to be like, hey, you have to come here or anything like that. I was just like, listen, keep your options open. If you want somewhere else that you want to go there. Like, I'm not going to be mad about it. And I'm grateful she chose Ball State and they recruited her. So it was awesome, and I wouldn't change it either. That's another thing I wouldn't change, is just having her there, being able to see each other all the time. It was awesome.
Gotcha. And then I know you had brought up when you were talking about the rings. So you won a state championship. Was that in football?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, it was.
Talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that was my sophomore year of high school. I wasn't the starter to begin the year, and took the job over 3 games in. And the guy that I took the job over went played receiver the rest of the year. Ended up getting a scholarship offer to Western Michigan. Gio Ricci played tight end at Western, is now playing in the NFL. He's a good buddy of mine too. So it worked out well. We ran a wing T offense, but that was a heck of a year. Went 15-0. That was my sophomore year. It was the first time we had ever won a game in the first time we'd ever won more than one game, I think, in the playoffs. Like, that was the second time we'd ever been in the playoffs in Ohio. It's a little bit different than Indiana, where not everybody gets in. It's like a points-based system that 8 teams from like 4 regions get in. So that was the second time we'd ever been in the playoffs, and went on a heck of a run. A lot of things fell our way. I mean, we were down one game, I think 21 going into the fourth quarter, and came back and won. Another one, we were down 8 with 45 seconds, went down and scored and got the 2-point conversion, and then won in overtime. I mean, it was just like everything fell our way, and nothing was, getting in the way of that. So it was another special moment. And the state championship, we played in the snow, and I'd always wanted to play in the snow. I never had. And we played. I mean, it was almost like a blizzard. Like they had to every probably 5 minutes we had to stop the game just to clear enough lines to see where the ball was. So it was hectic. I mean, you look it up like the 2013 Loveland State Championship, and you'll see pictures. And it was like torrential downpour of snow. It was crazy, and I loved every second of it. So that was awesome. Just being able to play and win a state championship with guys I grew up with was unreal.
Yeah, and then so you said you were playing obviously at an outdoor stadium. So was that the Bengals stadium or was that the Browns stadium?
No, it was the Hall of Fame stadium.
Oh,
We
so
played
it's Canton, Ohio. Okay.
Yeah, we played in Canton.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's super cool. That's surprising. I'm surprised that it wouldn't be at an NFL stadium. I mean, I guess it's technically an NFL stadium, but
yeah, it's just so I think they do them right now where they kind of split it between Canton, Massillon High School, which if you've ever seen their field, it's pretty big. It's where Paul Brown coached and went to high school, so makes sense. And then they do it at Ohio State just because it's centrally located. All three of them are pretty centrally located in the state, so I think that's why they do it.
That makes sense.
So growing up just outside Cincinnati, would you define yourself as a Bengals fan or?
Oh yeah, I'm a Bengals fan. So I mean, being able to go to mini camp there and get a chance to play there putting on the jersey for even one day was pretty cool.
What do you think of their white jerseys, the white Bengal jerseys they came out with?
And the helmet. No, the jerseys have been around.
They had the jerseys, but the helmet is sweet.
Yes.
I mean, I hope it snows when they wear those things.
I know they had the white Bengal, and then the Panthers have the blackout ones. I think they play in week 9, and all I want is to see the blackout Panthers against the whiteout Bengals. That would be awesome.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah. Okay. So you were at Bengals practice. So did you get to meet like Joe Burrow and all those other guys?
No. So it was just rookie mini camp. It was just all the rookies were there.
Gotcha.
It was like a one-day kind of quick workout. The coaches there are great, so I have a great relationship with them.
Oh yeah, and then obviously obviously they've done pretty well last season. So I mean, are you going to stay a Bengals fan while you kind of work your way through your NFL career, trying to get into it?
Yeah, I think whatever team I'm on, I'll be the fan of that team. But
there you go.
Bengals always somewhere in my heart.
Good day. I understand.
Yeah,
I understand the mentality.
You talked about always wanting to stay close to athletics and football. If you got the call to coach anytime soon, would you be interested in that line or even broadcasting just to be around the sport?
I think I would. I think that would give me a little bit more. I would have to give a little more thought to it. I kind of know what the schedule is of a coach, and I just don't know if, in the long run, I'm going to be wanting to do that. So, but I definitely give it a lot of consideration. It also depends on, how my career goes playing wise, if stuff like that. So I've always said at the very least, I've wanted to be a high school coach and go enjoy that. I think, I feel like I would be a pretty decent high school coach with the knowledge that I have of just football in general.
I mean, yeah, you'd have to be pretty knowledgeable to be a D1 quarterback. I understand. And then, follow-up question kind of. So with all the mini camps that you were talking about, I know that you had posted on Twitter and so at Ball State that you were doing a joint mini camp with the Bears and the Colts. And then I know you didn't bring up the Colts and you were talking about that.
So
how did that kind of fall through?
It was kind of for me, it was like all of them were tryout based, like go to the mini camp. It's like a tryout, get signed if they like you or whatnot. So there's 2 weekends that they do mini camps. There's like the weekend after the draft and then the weekend after that are mini camps. Bears one was the first weekend, so I agreed to that one. Colts one was the next weekend. Colts ended up signing Jack Cohn. So basically they told me I was just going to be a camp arm. It wasn't really try out, no chance of getting signed. Bengals came in, said, we want you to come down here, do a tryout. So I decided to do that one instead of the Colts. So did the Bears, didn't get signed, went down and did the Bengals one.
Gotcha. All right. That makes sense. Yeah. I just didn't know how that all kind of worked out.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing too about the process. Like the whole process of the NFL is like, you don't really know what's going on if you're not like involved. Like I never really understood what everybody was doing when you're not in it. Like I had to basically explain to my family too, like how it went, because my agent had explained it to me, like, I'm going from this time to this time, and then there's rookie mini camps, and after mini camp you may have a week depending on when the rookie mini camp is, and then from there you have OTAs, voluntary OTAs, and it's a heck of a schedule. That's for sure.
All right. Yeah, definitely. Dan, do you want to say something? Sorry.
Yeah. Do you think you'll find yourself back at Schumann this year, or do you want to spend a couple years doing the thing and then coming back just for nostalgia purposes?
I'm sure I'll be there once or twice. Having my sister up there with her season. I'm living in Carmel right now, so I'm not too far. There's no reason for me not to come up and at least catch one game or, stop by. So I'm sure I'll be there this year, this fall at some point.
Yeah, so we're gonna segue into one of our special guest segments. We're gonna call it Hot Takes with Drew Plitt. So just a few of your expertise-based hot takes. First, who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl, the MVP, and comeback player of the year in the NFL this year?
Super Bowl is going to be my Bengals. I mean, they're going to get done this year. If I'm not on a team, they're doing it this year. MVP, I mean, at that rate, it's going to have to be Joey B. Going to have to be Joe. I mean, if Bengals win the Super Bowl, I mean, he's going to who else is going to win it? You know what I mean? Comeback player of the year. I mean, who's even up for that? I don't.
Yeah, I don't know who was injured last year. That what?
Give me some options. I mean, you could say OBJ is not going to be a comeback player, unless just because he played in the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah,
I think maybe Derrick Henry, just because
that would be
he had a slumped year. But I never really liked that, because we know once Derrick Henry's back healthy, he's gonna be Derrick Henry again.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm not a big fan of the bionic foot, so I don't know. We'll see. I may be speaking way too soon. So, but I said that as a Colts fan.
I mean, Robert Woods was out last year. He's in Buffalo now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do believe so.
I mean, that could be. He could be he's somewhere where he's gonna. He's got to.
He's in Tennessee, actually, Robert Woods.
Tennessee?
Yes.
I mean, he could have a big year, with AJ Brown leaving. I mean, he might be the number one receiver, and
yeah, we'll see. I don't know.
It might be Robert Woods.
So with your football expertise, just a follow up to that first one, do you do a whole lot of fantasy football or anything along those lines?
I do. I just I'm at the very basic level. I read what it tells me to do and I do it. But same way with when I played Madden, I'm so bad at Madden. The quarterback never throws it the way I expect him to. So he throws it with too much touch. You can't ever throw the long ball because he doesn't throw a back shoulder. Madden just makes me mad because it never goes the way I expect it to. So, I mean, very basic level with fantasy football too.
What do you think about the new NCAA football game coming out?
I was just going to say that as well.
I wish it. I mean, I know the NIL stuff is happening and all that. But I wish we just had the game just because, I grew up just wanting to be in, wanting to play and be in the game, right? So, my wish is they go back, for those, was it 6-7 years, and they do just do a roster for each team based on those years, and you can do top 25 teams. So at least we'll get in there for 1 year, right? Top 25 teams that ended the season, throughout those 6 years, make a roster for that, and you can go back and play those teams. That would be pretty cool.
That'd be super fun. They totally should do that, honestly. Them taking away that game
at least once.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, seeing yourself as a video game character would be pretty sweet. So I understand.
But then
other than the one I created.
But then Drew Plitt wouldn't be throwing the ball right?
No, I mean, I would absolutely yell at myself for sure. You're sitting there screaming at the TV, and girlfriend would be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm not throwing it well."
All right. So we got our second question here. Who do you think will win the World Series this year? Just your thought. What do you got?
World Series.
I know.
I can see the Yankees doing it. I think they're hot. That's being a Cincinnati fan, Reds, that's tough. But
we were just going to ask whether or not you were a Cleveland Guardians or a Reds fan. Obviously,
I'm a Reds fan.
Yeah,
I'm a Reds
so you're
fan,
more Cincy
unfortunately.
side. Yeah. Sorry, I'm a big Cubs guy. So
yeah. Well, you went through your years of torment.
We had Kyle Smedley on the podcast back during the school year. He's a sports writer, but he's a huge Cincinnati Reds fan, and I love to hear him talk about it because it's just. I mean, I'm a Detroit fan. I'm a fan of all things Detroit, so I don't have much to talk about.
Yeah.
But it is really fun to hear him complain about his franchise.
I mean, we could have it a lot worse. I mean, I will say that.
I think
the Yankees are going to do it this year. I think they're hot. I think they're all that money they spent is finally going to come through.
We'll see. So, and then finally, college football national championship. Who's it going to be? And then who's your Heisman winner?
I think Alabama. I think Bryce Young wins the second one.
Wow. There you go.
So all Crimson Red.
I think second in voting will be their linebacker. It's not Will? It's not Will Anderson. No, he's playing in the league. Whoever the linebacker is that's at Alabama, who's supposed to be like a number one pick already. I mean, I think he's going to be up for Heisman.
Yeah, and then one of our final questions. I have to ask a precursor to it though. Have you heard of La Rosa's Pizza?
Yes.
Okay, so if you
I know one of the owners of La Rosa's Pizza. I grew up with his son.
So, I mean, this is probably a little tilted now, though. If I was saying, if you're going out to dinner, are you getting Skyline Chili or La Rosa's?
Oh, Skyline, without a doubt, Skyline.
Wow,
Skyline, really?
I mean, like I love him, but Skyline all the way. I mean, that is like, it's like my lifeblood. I mean, I go home and like I can't do without it.
I've had Skyline, I think twice in my life. I was down in Ohio somewhere for a soccer tournament, and we went to Skyline Chili, and I never had Cincinnati chili before, so I was very confused. But either you love it or you hate it. It wasn't bad. I thought it was delicious. I just thought it was a very odd different style.
All right, and then final question for me. Okay, or actually more of a statement because I need you to do this. So either XFL or USFL, when you get all those offers, because I know you will, when the Stallions or the Battlehawks ask you to be on their team, you pick one of those two teams and not the other ones, because I don't want to have to buy new XFL and USFL merch. Okay, so either USFL or XFL Battlehawks. Those are the two teams.
Okay. Andy always picks whichever team is the new expansion team, in whichever league. So I wanted him to be a Panthers fan for the USFL this year, but he chose the Stallions, and the Stallions won it. And then he's a big Battlehawks fan as well.
But can you do that for me? Can you do that?
If I have a choice, I would love to.
All right. Yes, I think you will. You'll be fine. Yeah, Battlehawks. Awesome. I'm sure we'll need some help, and then Stallions. I'm sure we can move people out of there. So,
listen, every day, hey, Drew's going on the Battlehawks.
Yes,
you do that for me, and I'll do that.
There we go. I'm manifesting it right now.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Drew, for coming on to the podcast today. You've been a wonderful guest. We know your future is bright, and we can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you guys having me on. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you, man.
So that's it for our interview with Drew Plitt. Thank you guys again for joining us on the Underqualified Knuckleheads podcast. We got a few things in the fire coming up for the future, though, right, Andy?
Yes, we do. I do believe next week we have the Q-Tip from Ball State University, one of our guys that is overseas, I do believe right now, Dan, playing some men's volleyball.
Yes, Quinn the Q-Tip Isaacson. He was Ball State's setter this year, amazing player. He got signed to play professional volleyball in France and has spent the last few months with the USA men's volleyball program playing. He's actually out on the West Coast, so that'll be a wonderful interview with a guy like that.
And then, that'll be our last one over Zoom, hopefully, as Dan and I kind of get headed back towards Ball State here. So once again, thank you everybody for listening. And if I'm correct, I do believe we will see you next week.